I just like wrestling because it gives everybody an opportunity. You don't have to be tall, you don't have to be strong, you don't have to be, you can be anything and still be a wrestler.
I'm Michael Screen. This is finishing up my first year, and I wrestled in school just a few years in middle school, and I think wrestling is the best sport because of the humility it teaches and perseverance, and go out there, fail, and come back, you know.
My name is Dave Manahan, and I was asked how many years I've been officiating, and it's somewhere 10 to 15. For a while there, Jack would let me referee middle school matches, and I felt like I was staying involved in the sport, and I'd rather coach, but when I'm not coaching, I'm officiating. I had the opportunity to wrestle for Frank Furtado at Seattle Pacific, and I've traded a bunch of stories with Paul, and he's helping me with my memory. That really does. And
that's a scary thought.
Yeah,
that's a scary thought.
That makes you a great official. Short memory. We're getting closer and closer. In more ways than one. And as far as just as a side note, so Facebook, like who's on Facebook? Okay, so finally, some friends say, we should get a Facebook account. And the people I communicate, and I'm not on Facebook very much, but the ones I communicate with are wrestlers that I coached for years and years. And it's such a hoot. Like one, just this last summer, is a pilot. He lives down in California. And it's, oh, really? And I ran into another kid, gee, he's 37. I ran into him just a couple weeks ago. So it's Ed Alberti, the world's oldest and greatest sport, and I'm a firm believer in that, and big on self-discipline, and as long as the body holds out, I can still contribute a little bit, I'll still stay involved.
I'm Chris Gonzalez. I wrestled for like 5 years in high school, or like middle school, high school. I didn't my senior year because of injuries, but now I'm gonna be officiating. And
welcome.
Reason wrestling's the best sport on the planet, I don't really know, it just is.
That works. No argument here.
I'm Ryan Green, I'm another new guy. Experience in wrestling, probably about 6 or 7 altogether, including kind of coaching the little kids and officiating at that level. Didn't wrestle after high school. The only school that was interested was the Air Force Academy, and I wasn't going to go to that sissy school, so that's where my wrestling career ended. Football's the best sport on the planet, but wrestling's a close second because of all the discipline and guts that it takes to be able to do the sport. So.
You're out. I don't know how you got to this far from the screen. I'm sorry.
PNWOA starts training next October.
We just finished.
We're replacing you, Bob. I'm sorry. Poor judgment. It's a judgment call. It's bad.
Ray Vela. It's my 29th year. I never wrestled.
You never wrestled?
My twin brother wrestled in high school and college. So I got involved back in the 70s. As far as why I do it, I get an opportunity to give back to the sport and give back to the kids and make sure they have a good official on the mat every time I walk out there.
So Ray, if your brother wrestled, why didn't you?
I was a baseball player. I was successful at a very high level of baseball, so that was my sport. So he wrestled, I played baseball. So.
Does he officiate baseball now?
No.
Does he want to officiate wrestling?
Unfortunately, because of wrestling, he is medically retired. He had to retire, let's see, we just turned 54, when he was 49, I think. He's had 5 neck surgeries, all due to wrestling.
All right.
Yeah.
I
I know. Bob Turner.
Hi, I'm Bob Turner. I wrestled for 10 years when I was growing up, and I have officiated. This is my 30th year, and I coached for 5 years also down at Bellarmine Prep in Tacoma earlier this decade. I wrestled in middle school, high school, and then college, and wrestled for West Point, which was not a sissy school. So I wrestled in the NCAA tournament twice when I was in college, and didn't place, but I was ranked 13th in the nation my senior year. And the reason wrestling is the best sport is because what other guys have said, everyone can do it. I was a small guy, I wrestled 101 pounds in high school. I couldn't play football or basketball or sports like that need more size or height. So it's great because anyone can do it that wants to do it and is willing to put the effort in. And it's very rewarding for those of us that have coached to see kids, regardless of their abilities, who go out there and try and have the guts to do it. And they need to be rewarded for that.
Hi everybody, Matt Grogan. Let's see, started wrestling when I was in like 4th grade, wrestled through high school in New York, also in what we call the tri-state area, very, very tough wrestling area, New Jersey, Long Island, New York area. Wrestled a little bit in college, started refereeing my sophomore year in college, which was the 73-74 season, which means that I've been officiating across 5 decades now, which is kind of nuts. The best thing about wrestling is what everyone else has already said, but I'll add one more. It's the only sport that I know of that you can actually lose and help your team win. Meaning that if you don't get pinned, you might help your team win, which ironically is a story for me because in my senior year I happened to have the state champ in our league, and the goal for me was not to get pinned by him because it was going to be a 1 or 2 point match at the end of the night, and he beat me 4-2 that night.
Wow.
And I was the only kid that he never pinned in his entire wrestling career.
Mission accomplished.
And so that was, that's what I can kind of hang my hat on. And we actually did win that match and won the league. So wrestling, there's nothing like it. It's the toughest sport to participate in. It is the toughest sport to coach, and it is the toughest sport to officiate. Plain and simple. There's nothing else that compares to it. And you guys all know this. You'll stand on a balcony and there'll be 500 people down in an arena, just a general arena, and you can start hand-picking out the wrestlers. There's one. I mean, am I right? I mean, again, because it's a certain way that we carry ourselves, it's a certain type of discipline, etc., etc. And I love being out in the community, seeing people and whatnot. So. That's it for me. Chuck?
Chuck Tompkins, 6 years of wrestling, 2 of them in college. Let's see, this is I think I'm going on to my 18th year. And then, like everybody said on wrestling, why is it the best sport? Number one is it gives everybody the opportunity to get out of it what you put into it. If you don't put out, then you can expect not to do well. The camaraderie of the wrestlers, when you have wrestlers that are putting out, and as a team, you're only as good as your practice partner. And if your practice partner's not putting out for you, you're not going to do real well. So you had to beat up, sometimes you had to thump up on your wrestling partner when they'd roll over on their back, you'd flip them back over and cross-face the heck out of them and say, the only way I'm going to get good is if you make me good. So, but it's what you get out of it, what you put into it, so. And like everybody said, you didn't have to be a giant to wrestle, so. Anyway.
Dave Black, I think this is my 8th or 9th year reffing. I've been coaching this is my 18th year coaching. I teach in Issaquah, so I still coach middle school kids. I wrestled for 8 years, but never really got anywhere. And everybody took all my examples of why I love the sport. But the other thing I think is pretty cool that I teach my kids, you can be losing 14-1, and that kid is just getting all cocky and makes one little mistake and you can pin him and win the match. And so I teach my kids to wrestle till that last whistle goes. And I think that's great, because in football you're down by 30 and at the end of the fourth quarter you're screwed. So I like it because my kids will never quit. I like how wrestlers in general, we don't give up. So.
My name is Louis Hendrickson. This is, I've had 42 years. This is year number 43 coming up for refereeing. I only wrestled for 4 years, a couple years in high school, and a couple years in college. Like Bob Turner, I was a 101 pounder. In fact, I can still make that weight if you cut my arms and my legs off. I'm good to go.
You can make that weight another day.
Close. I've tried it, it's there. The reason I like the sport is there's a couple important reasons to me. I've got a chance to travel throughout the United States and throughout the world officiating one or other form of wrestling, and that's been really good. And it gives me a chance to give back to the sport, whether it's doing a JV practice match or a high school wrestle off or a donate tournament where we're not making any money. It gives me a chance to give back, and I think giving back is what all we need to do.
Wayne Luddick, been officiating now 17 years, 17th year. Wrestled in high school, Pennsylvania. Just beats up the tri-state area. And Penn State wrestles Army in another week. This week, I think. Should be fun. All right. I think it's the grit that you have to have to wrestle, and again, it's that one-on-one mentality. So, yeah.
My name is David Douglas. Wrestled for only 3 years in high school and did some college tournament, open tournament when I went to Western. I've coached for, I've coached for probably 5 to 10 years. I don't know how long I've officiated. The reason why I like the sport, for me, I always did team sports, and it's very easy to sit there and say you worked hard and maybe your teammate didn't, and then when I was convinced to be wrestling, I kind of realized that it really doesn't matter. You just have to put out your effort, and that's what I got out of it.
Brad Roram. I wrestled growing up in another state. I wrestled 1 year here, actually on Mercer Island, near Paul Jackson. So I feel sort of a kinship with Larry Owens. And then coached about 8 years, and it's my 3rd year officiating. The reason wrestling is such a great sport, the reason it's a better sport than football, basketball, baseball, a lot of different sports, is that there are very few politics involved. If you're better than the person you want to beat out for a position, you beat them out because you worked harder and you discipline yourself and you're a better wrestler, and you get the opportunity to step on the mat with that person and win a spot. And none of those other sports, you have the ability to do that. That's what I want to do.
My name is Brian, 13 years wrestling. I coached for 5. It's my first time officiating. I've done baseball umpiring. I did for 7 years when I was younger. And I wrestled up through freshman in college, and then I got into the working board.
Where at, Ryan? Where you from?
Maple Valley.
Oh, okay.
Tahoma High School.
And then best sport on the planet, mano y mano, I guess. So you can only blame yourself, so. You can blame lots of people and make excuses, I guess, but it comes down to you. So.
I'm Max Aquino. I wrestled from junior high through high school, coached for 8 years at Roosevelt, officiated for several years in USA Wrestling, then joined You Find People for several years for taking a few years off with the whole getting married thing and having falling out with Sherry at Roosevelt. Surprise, surprise.
No.
Really?
That puts you in good stead.
Past initiation. But I'm back. Let's see here. Let's see here. The reason wrestling's the best sport on the planet, I'm going to deviate from everyone else. It's got to be the Stiglitz. Come on now.
Yeah, well, that's changing, man.
I mean, same reason everyone else. It's nothing. Especially when I was coaching, I loved seeing a kid who had never won get his first win. There's nothing quite like seeing that. Suddenly, the look on their face, they're super confident it's at a tournament. The next round, they want to be back on the mat faster than anyone else.
Yeah.
And that's one of the coolest things that I ever got to experience.
Cool. My name is Mike Schneider. I wrestled for 4 years in high school. I think this is my 18th year officiating. But I echo everybody else. The reason that wrestling's a great sport is the accountability. It's on you. But as a big guy, you play football, you're a lineman, you don't get any credit when you win, but when you lose, everyone knows whose fault it is. When you wrestling mat, it's your fault whether you lose, or it's your fault whether you won. So it's the accountability there. That's what it's
Gary Lindenstein. I wrestled in high school and then a couple years in college, club wrestling, not on the team. But then, I think the best sport I've been officiating 13 years, and I think the best sport on the planet is really frisbee golf.
Isn't that poetic?
It's one of those things you can do your whole life when you're in your 90s at least. But, and you can practice by yourself.
Plus the accountability.
But wrestling, I like all the individual levels. There's a lot of wrestling.
I'm Fred Gorham. I started wrestling in 8th grade, junior high, and then went junior high. I graduated at Meadowdale High School, where I also did wrestling just in intramural stuff in the Marine Corps. And then I officiated here for 25 years. I, of course, at Shorecrest and Roosevelt High School. We won the Metro Championship the year I took over for Lenny. And we won it somehow. I don't know how we did, but we did. And that's when I first started the association. Wrestling, I want to reword that on planet, because wrestling is the best sport in the universe and heavenly. Because as you know, Jacob wrestled an angel for 12 hours. So that shows you that it's a heavenly and universal sport. And if we can wrestle angels, I mean, and so, but it gives a lot, because it starts from the beginning of time. Wrestling is survival. It is the survival of pride, and also respecting your opponents too, that you always give respect for a person, but also we survive through these generations to where we are today of humankind, is that we as humans had to survive the wrestling to continue with the species that we are. So that's my first physiological.
So the wins are really tough to call the pin.
Yeah, there you go. What have you left it? Yeah, what have you left that match? Yeah,
that's a hell of an overtime.
Tim Hester. I think this was my 7th year officiating, but I officiated in high school for all 4 years as well. And I wrestled at Shorewood.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
And I wrestled at junior college down in Oregon. And I like my favorite part about wrestling is was already said. The match isn't over till the very end. When I'm officiating kids, and they come back and they get that pin, I go, man, you did a great job. It's awesome to see that.
I'm John Fisher. Let's see, I've been officiating somewhere around 15 years. Originally from California, that's where I wrestled at. Let's see, I have two favorite sports, wrestling and rugby. So the reasons I love those two sports, besides what everyone said here, is that they both require two things that you don't put together very often. One is you have to be incredibly smart and thinking at all times. You've always got to be thinking of a couple things ahead of what's happening. And the second thing is there's that real risk of physical punishment and pain and injury. And that kind of separates the men from the boys. You know, a lot of people can play chess, but to play chess when somebody's threatening to break your arm is slightly different. So.
You never played my older brother.
So that's why I love wrestling, because it requires a lot out of people.
My name's Curtis Hill. I just moved here about a month ago from New Hampshire. So I officiated 2 years out there, did apprentice year, and then I was patched last year. Wrestled in middle school through high school, 2 years in college at the Division III level. Love wrestling, a great confidence builder, resilience on yourself, camaraderie too. Once you meet someone, you know they're wrestlers, like you got a lot of respect for them. But the teamwork too, talk about camaraderie, like you can't train by yourself, you gotta have a good practice partner, you gotta do all that stuff. So it's and I love giving back to the community, so it's great.
Alright, I'm Eric Weisberg. I wrestled in high school and I sucked. Officiating 12 or 13 years. This is my 9th season up here.
And you don't suck.
No, I'm a much better official than I was a wrestler.
God, you're a crappy wrestler.
Where did you San Jose. Right about the time you started officiating, I was. My third best reason why wrestling is the best sport on the planet is being a baseball umpire and a football official is that it's indoors. My second biggest reason is that being a baseball umpire, being a lousy baseball team, you can be out there so long you can celebrate your birthday. You get a bad wrestler, I know for 10 seconds. But the biggest reason that wrestling is the best sport on the planet is that baseball, football, basketball, those are all games. Wrestling is a sport. So, a couple other notes. One of our members who isn't able to be here tonight is Rick Oates. And I don't know if you know, Rick has been ill. He's being treated for cancer. He sent an email before the meeting, sent his regards, and he says, "Hey guys, I was hoping to make it tonight to see everyone, yet today has been a long one. Medical appointments starting with radiation at 7 a.m. and then he worked after that. New regime of chemo and radiation combined does make me feel a little tired and is lowering my immune system. So it is recommended stay away from large groups of people and other things such as a limited diet. It is working and the tumor is now more than 50% smaller, so that is good news. Say hi to everyone. I hope to make it to a meeting in the future." So, yeah, I won't be officiating this season. But Fred, you have regards for anyone?
Well, okay, he's my boss, so I see him every day. So if anybody wants to give him a card or anything, you can present it to me and I can give it to him because I see him every day. So.
And I'm sure he would appreciate, just a phone call.
Yeah, phone calls, or if anybody wants to give him, just see me, because like I said, he's my boss, so I see him every day.
Yeah, how is his wife?
I haven't heard, I haven't
I haven't seen any postings on her in a while. They tend to post when something's going on with her, so I certainly get hearing that. If anybody knows, it's probably Fred. That was his wife.
Yeah, because he missed work for some time because of his wife too. He was taking care of her. He's very quiet about it, so I really don't know a whole lot on it. Of course, I'm not going to ask him unless he wants to talk about it. But I really don't know.
They
And-
traveled out of state for some treatment.
Yeah,
so.
so he was gone, but so out of respect for him, he's kind of been keeping it quiet, and, but he's asking for our prayers, and, I don't wanna keep bugging him about you going, so I mean, like we go as a pump site, cause like I said, I won't even talk to him, so like if I'm in trouble daily, but I mean, the good thing when I go in and see him, I don't know that everybody wants to say hi, but I don't wanna keep bugging him, so, oh yeah, Rick, are you gonna, work just, how my personality is, I like them, give
But
people a hard
I'm sure
time.
you'd appreciate hearing from each and every one of you.
Right, and so.
We'll certainly send them our regards and tell them
Okay.
everything about it.
He looked good today, he's energetic at work, he's out there fun, everybody likes him at work, he's, working hard, but he's working, he gets off about right now, he gets off. But, so but he's doing good at work, and like I said, he's coming every day, and looks like he's gonna be there a while, so that's good.
Thanks,
Eric, just one, I did call PG
Yeah.
today to try to twist his arm.
Yes, and you broke it off.
And I couldn't convince him to come back. So, this is a ref who was with us for years and years. He gets
Get him get certified and registered, we need that.
Older guy. So, yeah, so before we move on, I'd like to introduce the rest of the board. We got John Fisher, please stand up. Adam Olson, Lewis, stay standing, you were standing. Damon is en route, he's been en route for about an hour, I don't know where he is, but, so.
He was down in Southern California today, so he was traveling today.
But he shall be here momentarily, yeah.
He's running.
As we're talking around the room, I realized that this is my 9th year here, and I'm probably not even halfway up the seniority list here. So if you've been a president of PNWOA, please stand up so you can acknowledge all of the past presidents. All right. Thank you. So as you all saw, there's a bunch of you guys in the room. I think there were 6 or 7 here, and Bob tells me there's 14 total.
13, turns out, yeah.
Okay. So Curtis and Chris and Ryan, Dave Black. Yeah. Brian and Ryan. All right, look at that. Who did I miss? Max and Mike. So, have any of you recently graduated high school?
I did.
What you graduated from?
I graduated from Englemoor last spring or whatever.
Nice. Well, let me be the first to present you with your first whistle.
All right.
Welcome. Is that a used whistle or a...
It's still in the packaging, man.
Oh, you could have,
Here, we sealed it.
It's taped back up.
Yeah, right up. Yeah.
All right. What's that?
I got the pink one? Yeah, you got the pink one.
No, I still got my pink whistle.
They confiscated all those.
Me and Todd go way back. Speaking of Todd, let's talk about the WOA conference for a minute. It was a very active 24 hours. A lot of things happened. So let me update you on what happened there and what you need to know for the season. So first, the WOA has a new integrity program, and I'm not sure the reason, the rationale behind this. I heard that there were some officials in the eastern part of the state who were gambling on their events they were working. We know there are guys here in Seattle baseball who chew on the field, violation of the NHS rules, and there's more than one guy. Hang on, there's more than one time. One guy I know who brings a couple cold ones to have a post-game debriefing in the parking lot. And so apparently there are a number of issues going around the state that have not been, welcome Christian, they've been raised to local boards, but the local boards haven't done anything. And then they get raised to WOA. And so WOA has decided to make a formal policy around this. And so there is the hotline, the new integrity hotline is actually an email address. If you go to the WOA hub on Arbiter and you have an issue, you can send it to Todd and he will decide what to do with it next. I don't know the formal workings of it behind the scenes there. And if you've been around for a while, you know we've had our issues with ethics and grievances, complaints as well. I just want to stress that hopefully each and every one of you, if you don't feel comfortable bringing an issue to my attention, that you know somebody else on the board you can bring attention to their attention, or somebody else in the room. As you saw, there's 6 or 7 past presidents in the room, any of whom would be happy to talk to you and then relay something to me if they have a concern. Yes, Jim?
Does that stop state officials from joining insurance companies?
No.
Okay, I was just checking. Because that is kind of
All right, so from last year, remember there were 2 classification levels of officials. There was a registered official who just signed up on Arbiter and paid their dues to WOA, and they could officiate middle school, junior high school, non-school events. And then there are certified officials who, if you took and passed the exam, could officiate high school events. Well, that had a new classification this year, and those are postseason officials. And postseason officials meet all the requirements of a certified official, except that they also have to complete what they instituted last year, the WA instituted last year, which is called the RTO endorsement program. And if you had a regional assignment or a state assignment last year, you remember that you had to go into Arbiter periodically, and there were different things that you had to go do, articles to read, tests to take, and in order to be considered a postseason official. Well, they're extending that to districts. So if you have desire to be a district official this year, then you will all need to also complete the RTO endorsement.
And for people thinking about that, it's all online.
It's all on Arbiter.
Yeah.
Everything is on Arbiter. You just go. Do you know where you take the test? When the test gets posted, I presume Bob will tell us when the test is posted. There's the eligibility, thank you. Wow, I'm impressed, man.
I thought you had to do that.
You didn't, not only if you wanted a regional assignment. Now, if you want a district assignment, and all of you want district assignments because we need every single body, you need to also complete your RTO endorsements.
And what is it, like every 2 weeks there's a shake on that? Wow.
It's going to be probably every week this year.
Every week?
Okay.
You don't have to do them by a certain date except the end of the season. So if you want to wait till week 10 of the season and sit down and knock them all out, it's up to you.
So if they're anything like the football side of the house, which I'm sure they're pretty similar since it's all done by WOA,
Right.
Basically you watch 4 or 5 slides, then you go right into the test that goes with it, and there's 5 questions, and you get to retake it until you get 80% or higher.
And Ray, you're on the committee of the rights commission, right?
Yeah, basically what it is very similar to what he said, and basically where we come up with these questions is where what we're dealing with throughout statewide, and we're presenting questions that we're dealing with on a daily basis that are either interpretations or what we're hearing from different working associations on clarifications of the rule. So that's basically all it is. And I think what it is exactly what he said. I think you've got to get 4 out of 5 to have a passing grade each week for that. And it's a requirement to do that.
And I'll give you a little hint. If you miss more than 1, you can go back and retake it immediately afterwards, and nobody's the wiser.
Exactly.
All right, we got a raise. We get $2 more for our varsity dual meet, and $1 more for sub-varsity and middle school meets, and postseason $3. That can't be. Ray, do you remember $3 for
a match?
It can't be for a match.
No.
Because we only get $4 for a match to begin with. So.
Yes, 4.
I
don't know where you got that.
$2 per day.
I don't know where you got that $3 at.
Either do I. So we'll just move past that.
Just give me $3.
All right. So by now you know you're a NASO member. I hope. NASO, National Association of Sports Officials. It's they're headquartered in Wisconsin. They provide all sorts of training materials. They provide insurance. They publish Referee Magazine. Here did I probably list it. And so the WOA has negotiated on our behalf to join and list all of us as members of NASO. And so
you get all of those benefits. I think the rack rate for membership is like $109, but I've been paying $79 for the past few years. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of value in that. My football friends love it because, as you know, if you were around a few years ago, I had a kid die on the field, okay? And that was a huge deal to me. When I got over the shock of it, the first thing I did was to call NASA. So I don't diminish the value of that.
Eric, is that an additional $79?
No, WA is paying.
Oh, they're supposedly paying.
They're paying for this season. WA is paying for that for everybody.
Yeah, so everybody has it this year free of charge, and next year it'll be a fee to us.
Right. So next year, dues are going up from $40 to $95. So, again, for my football friends, still a bargain, right? They get training materials at a discount, and Referee Magazine has an extensive coverage of 6 sports, but wrestling isn't one of them.
Which we're in the process of changing. They've asked us to, actually, I think Terry Beck said we'll be dealing with this, as he's going to present, hopefully once or twice, a nice, well-done write-up on wrestling, and they're going to try to include that into Referees Magazines. We currently don't have any exposure in the magazine at all to the sport of wrestling, so that will be included.
Do you think they'll give us a section?
I would hope so. At some point.
That's pretty expensive.
At some point, yeah. I mean, that's the goal, because we need the exposure, countrywide, especially out here on the West Coast.
You should have received the NASA membership card by now, which you should not throw away like I did.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was going to recommend, is when you should have got one weeks ago, open that up because your membership card is in there.
Right. And
if you threw it away, well, now you don't have your membership number.
You can call NASA, let them know.
Yeah, you're already included in their package, so.
NASA offers a bunch of discounts which you need the card for, and also, if you remember seasons previous to this, for $10 you get a pass to any state championship event. Well, now that's included in your membership as well, and you need that card to get in. So, questions before we move on?
Us new people, obviously we didn't get one.
Right. So I think they'll catch up with you at some point once we posted.
Yeah, I'll call WA and find out what the deal is for anyone that sort of just joined, that wasn't on the rosters when they sent all that stuff out back in August or whatever.
I do want to stress, hang on, Christian, I do want to stress that previous to the season, the WIAA provided liability insurance of $1 million. Well, they're no longer doing that because now NASA is providing $3 million. The one benefit to us, the biggest benefit to us, is that the WIAA only provided that liability insurance for events including WIAA schools. And not all high schools are WIAA schools, but not all middle schools are. And any kids club assignment was not covered by WIAA insurance. So now any assignment through Arbiter, you have $3 million in insurance.
So just notify me if you have something that isn't, if I didn't give you the assignment, so say like Lewis did a kids wrestling tournament this weekend, fundraiser they had for Highline Community College, or if you're doing like challenge matches at some high school or something, any of that stuff, just notify me. If I put it in Arbiter and it's scheduled, then you're covered by the liability insurance. So it could be anything. The good thing about NASO insurance, their sort of moniker is any contest, any level, anywhere. So literally, challenge matches in the junior high, kids tournaments, scrimmage, whatever. So if it's not something that we're getting paid for necessarily, as long as I've got it and I put it in Arbiter and capture it so you have an assignment from me, then you're covered.
I wouldn't enter it after the fact.
No.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
for trouble.
call me just call me ahead of time. Lewis let me know he was officiating on Saturday, and then just put that in Arbiter.
In terms of insurance, that does not change L&I insurance at all. So be aware that if you're working a non-WIAA school event, there is no L&I insurance provided for that. Okay? Christian, question?
Yeah, what's the deal with the $30 for each additional sport?
So right now, as a 3-sport official, I pay $120 a year in WA dues, believe it or not. Well, if they used the same method, next year I would be paying $285. I thought that was a bit excessive. I kind of agree. So they are limiting additional sports to $30 per sport. So next year I would pay $100.
I think it's probably because of the risk. So like if you're doing an activity, like their insurance is covering you for some period of time basically for the one activity you're officiating, but if you add a different activity across a different time span, then that's more risk on you, you know. So if you're doing multiple sports.
You know, and so their costs are.
Yeah, but it's probably more driven by the insurance liability that, okay, now you're out on the baseball field or the football field, and that's a whole nother set of risks that you could be getting injured or, you know, somebody, you know, suing you or whatever.
But it's not you get injured, it's somebody else get injured, because they're not
Right,
covering.
'cause NASA's
Yeah,
not
that's
covering-
true, but it just meaning there's some liability of some sort, like somebody gets hurt or there's some damage.
All right, moving on. So we spent a fair amount of time talking about RTO, and those of you who've been around for a few years, we've talked a lot about RTO. And for those of you who are new, RTO stands for Retain, Train, and Observe. So they announced a bunch of new changes at the state level and also for each sport. And the first one of those is that we are doing observations only at the local level. So if you remember correctly, we put a lot of time and effort into building a video program where we could upload videos to state qualified evaluators, or rather observers, and they could determine whether our postseason officials met the criteria that they determined needed to be met to be a postseason official. Well, that has proved to be infeasible, so the cost in terms of time and also the software, the application involved, which was Huddle, which is mainly used for football officials and football teams, proved to be too cost prohibitive. So they encourage us to continue to do our own observations. We talked Peninsula Association and us presented to the rest of the breakout what we do at the local level, which is, I think, considered probably the best in the state at this point. And they continue to encourage us to do that, but it is no longer going to be any mandate on the association. That said, we're going to continue our video program. We're not going to talk about it tonight, but we will continue what we did we've been doing for the past couple seasons.
I don't know, you know, what the plans are. Maybe this isn't the time to talk about it. You just sort of talk about it later. But I'd like to see it expanded more to the beginning officials. You know, instead of, since we don't have to present those to the end.
Okay.
Is that, I don't know.
Let me, you know, tell me more. I'll form it. Tell me
Okay.
what we have. The retain and train part will be, I just mentioned, focused on newer guys. At the state level, they decided that guys who are already working the state tournament, they've already established their level of skill and their habits, and the better focus would be to start reaching to new guys. So whatever comes forth, and I know Ray has mentioned there's a training manual coming out, will be focused on training at a more base level.
Did you have your training manual? Did you get it last week?
No. I saw him that.
I had a conversation today with Terry Beckstead that everybody received theirs.
Bob, did you get one?
No, because he asked me who was doing training, and I told him it was you.
Mentioned the statewide training manual. All right, and then, in my opinion, the highlight of the day was the change to the Matt Classic evaluation system. Ray, maybe you could address that for us?
So previously, as a lot of you already know, we've had a evaluation process for many years now. And the purpose of that, when it started, was to pretty much bring your top officials to the forefront, and they would establish a top 12 out of the 32 officials, and they would be automatically brought back next year, and then the other amount of officials would be added throughout the state. Well, now what they've done, and I think after we went through the WOA conference this year, and after speaking to a lot of people, I think we made a very positive change. So the process now is going to go very similar like this. There will be an evaluator, Paul, 2 at every 6, is that what it was?
I don't know.
You haven't been
I think it's probably only one.
one or two sitting at every 6 mats? 2, I think.
Oh, 2 of the 6 mats.
Yes. So each official will get a certain amount of evaluations through the 2 days. And what's going to happen then after the Saturday morning session, what they're going to do is they're going to sit in a room like this, and we've put the responsibility on the evaluators now, and they are going to come up with the top 32, 1 through 32. And what will happen, 36, is that what it is? 36 officials. So, as we've all seen over the years, there are some associations that just don't send their best guy because they don't see a lot of good wrestling, like the majority of us do. So they felt that there needed to be a change there because we just don't want to put that official in a position where he's going to fail at the 3 or 4A level or even the 2 in a state final match. So the top 12 will do just like previously. And then from 13 down, they're going to separate it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way through to do work the balance of the medal rounds. And then those top 12 will come back the following year. But we won't know who the top 12 is. We'll be notified. If I was told correctly, they will notify us after the state tournament. We won't even know. Other than you'll be able to pretty much see who's working the events. The finals, those are your top 12 officials. So it's kind of just, everyone's going to know anyway.
My understanding is the evaluator stays at that one area.
Does not rotate.
Does not
rotate.
So if he happens to be over on the girls, 1A or something like that, he stays there the entire time.
Yeah, but they bring the officials to that
Right.
Bring the
evaluator.
official
Like
to
they're
the
rotating the
evaluator.
officials
Rotate the officials through.
after a few weight classes so that in a session you'll see all of the officials from that particular group will come through your mats.
I think what came from all of this was a couple of things have happened in the last couple of years where we had certain people who were doing evaluating had agendas. And it was obvious to the evaluators in the process that some things were happening and it wasn't fair. By giving certain officials higher scores and then giving other officials lower scores, and it really made a difference on how it turned out as far as the process. So what they've done now is basically made the evaluator responsible and accountable for his evaluation. Because we're going to sit in a room and go, okay, I got 9 officials that say, hey, this guy's a 99. How in the world did you give him an 85? It's going to
I did him over the girls' match.
So we're really just trying to make the parity of the evaluator better. And I think that we accomplished that by doing this. Trial by error.
So all of the evaluators will basically see all of the officials?
Yes. So
Exactly right.
let me add a few comments in because this is what I remember from what they told us. So there's really 2 things that the evaluators will decide. One is whether or not officials can work the finals. So it's not going to be limited to just the top 12 or 18 or whatever. I think theoretically all 36 could work the finals. They're going to make a decision. Are you a good enough official to work the finals? Yes or no? That's a whole separate decision between who's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 through 36. So again, theoretically all 36 could work the finals because they say, you know what, they all do a great job. But then somebody's ranked 1, 2, 3, and now that process will take place because they will sit in a room and they will have to compare notes. So like Ray says, if some guy is the outlier and says, well, this official is like really lousy, and he's the only one out of 12 evaluators that thinks that, it's going to be apparent. He's an outlier. 11 other officials. Now they don't have a defined process yet for the evaluators on how they're going to conduct that meeting. They're sort of talking about the fact that there's not going to be the same concept of there's an evaluation sheet for each match where you go, oh, -2, -1, -2, and you get a 95 out of 100 on that match. No more of that. It's just notes. So they'll watch you officiate and they'll say, oh, official number 11, hey, good positioning, good stall call, whatever. Like they'll just take notes and it'll be more sort of like whatever's sort of significant to them, so that when they go in the room, they'll say, okay, let's talk about official number 11. I thought he was one of my best. He was one of my lower. Like they'll just talk about it, and they haven't defined what the process looks like for how they'll get to the point where they'll say, okay, well this one's number 1, 2, 3, etc. I think what they should probably do is just come up with a process where they say, maybe each evaluator would say, well, here's sort of my top 5 or 10 or whatever. These are my top 12. Like if I had to pick the top 12, these are mine. These are yours. And maybe they'll just go, okay, right off the bat, boom, 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 pieces of paper on the wall. Like, okay, 8 evaluators had this guy in the top 12, and 6 had this guy or whatever. Like they may sort it out pretty quickly to say, well, here's pretty clearly like these are our top 5 probably by consensus. But what about 6 through whatever? And then they'll have to have discussions, but they have to figure out that process.
It wouldn't be that hard to do an Excel spreadsheet with all the different officials by the number, and then each evaluator give their number as to where they would rank.
And that's what we do on the board, so that's certainly.
Yeah, so anyway, the process hasn't been defined, but that's how it'll be. 2 separate decisions. Can the official work the finals, yes or no? Anybody theoretically might be able to get a yes. And then who's 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. The process isn't fully defined, but it will take place with all the evaluators talking together. So again, there's accountability of, if you want to say this guy's a horrible official and you're the only one, or you're the only one that thinks a guy's great, that will emerge in the discussion.
In this event, then, say one match might not destroy your chances of being well ranked.
Correct, because you may have one evaluator out of 12 that's saying, yeah, he really crumbled under the pressure or whatever, and the other 11 say, well, I didn't see that. But it still may, well, wow, yeah, I heard about that match, right? If it's a real
calls in one match may not sink your competitiveness based on what the others saw in that one event, thinking that maybe it's a coachable opportunity.
Yeah, no doubt they'll do it this first year, they'll learn something, and they'll figure out a way to improve it.
I mean, hopefully, in my mind, one of the more unpleasant experiences that we had in that classic last year for the first time was getting that number at the end of it, which really, I didn't finish last, but still, it just seemed unnecessary. It didn't give me anything. They didn't give me any feedback to work off of. It was just an arbitrary assignment of the numbers. So.
Did the form change?
Yes.
Yes, there's basically no form.
There is no form of it. It's a yes or no.
It's just notes.
Yeah, notes and yes or no if you do work the finals or not.
I'm not buying any.
One highlight in my mind.
And there's pizza and pizza.
Chair right there. Either one.
Pizza. What's pizza?
One of the benefits in my mind, I didn't know that evaluators didn't need to be certified officials. So I think that's pretty significant.
That's actually, they are going to be required to go through the same process that we go through. They got to take a test. They got to stay up on the RTO questions, just like we do this year.
Registered and certified, or just certified?
It doesn't.
They have to be certified and they have to do the RTO endorsements.
They just have to do the same qualification.
They have to be postseason qualified.
They actually don't have a
Is there any
separate
concern
certification
on your part that
No, it's all
an
part of the
attempt to
same,
make the
as you will do or not will do.
basically less arbitrary, perhaps more objective, that moving away from a criteria system where you do establish a number is going to, in some ways, to move away from an objective system to a system where I can say, well, I just didn't think number 7 hustled, or just number 7 was just not that sharp.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
This system that we've implemented, I think should do that, based on yes or no. If Paul says, you know what, if I screwed up a match, you know, or take somebody else, and he says he's not qualified to work a 4A state final match, and he's not gonna work a match if they all come to agreement.
But to your point, it's very qualitative now, it's not objective anymore, it's not, oh, tick mark for that, it's just whatever I remember or see that's noteworthy, I'll take a note.
But if 36 guys are all separated by 2 points, really how quantitative was it before anyway? So.
You're not gonna get, as I have in the past, 100 on one match, then 94 from 2 evaluators watching the same match, and you go, what the heck? This guy says I'm great, this guy has a bunch of comments. What's really the truth? And you know, some of us have been state have to experience that, yeah.
Well,
here's the
thing.
was asking a question.
Yeah, that happened to Bob.
All right, so, any more questions, about what happened at the PNWOA conference in August before we move on?
No, just for one guy.
Couple leader rifles, want to introduce yourselves? Christian?
Hey y'all, Christian Beckett. What do you want to know?
So, your experience as in wrestling as an official and a wrestler.
Let's see.
Coach.
I was, once upon a time, I wrestled in high school in California. Then I wrestled in college. Then I coached wrestling in Virginia for the great Grundy.
Granby?
Grundy.
Oh, right.
Not in Granby. That's their rivals. But then I came out here, coached a little bit, and then came out to work here. So anyway,
Why is wrestling the best sport?
What?
Why is wrestling the best sport?
That's part of the question.
It is the only sport, in my opinion.
There we go.
Okay. Damon?
Yep. Damon Clark. Excuse me for being late. Just going from Orange County. Was there all day.
Boy, you're Orange County.
I woke up at 3:30 this morning, so it's been a great day. I wrestled in Pennsylvania. I got into
You're in the tri-state?
That is the tri-state area, that corner of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York.
Yeah, it's tri-state.
Where the Bannock brothers were from.
I got involved with Chief South in the seasoned assistant coaching, and then ran into Gary Lichtenstein, and he brought me out for the association. Now I'm part of the association. Wrestling's the best sport on earth. It's the only sport where you have one person trying to tell the other person what to do, and it comes down to pure determination who's going to win, who's going to have the bigger voice. So it's a very powerful sport.
Which side of the state were you from?
The only side, the Philadelphia side, the Eagles.
That's right.
All right, so as you just heard,
Yeah.
starting a year from now,
Yeah,
starting a year from now, we take a $55 hit on WA dues. And so, as a consequence of that, board sat down this past summer to look at how we spend our money and how we might put more money back in members' pockets. And so we've tallied up our expenses and our income, and our budget looks like this for the year. Give you a moment to process all of that. Questions?
The PNWOA dues, that $1,500, where does that go once it's given to?
That comes to us and it pays operating expenses. So like cost of this room, pizza,
Phone system. Our licenses.
So.
Is that the entire $1,500 spent each year?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And that hasn't been raised in quite a few years, from what I remember.
Yeah.
Does not get up.
$25 per member.
So if we look at compared to last year, we expect revenues to increase a couple $1,000 just based on those match fee increases, and we hope to increase our paychecks by $4,800. So to make up some of that gap. And here's where you can see how we're going to do it. So this year, WA dues remain $40. The association's going to pay $20 of the $40.
And in previous years, there's a small fee that most members don't know about. It's $11 per school that we service. Well, for our association, we service close to 60 schools. That's a pretty big chunk of change.
No, 96 schools.
96 schools. Pretty big chunk of change. And so in previous years, we paid between $30 and $50 or $70, whatever it was. Well, we're going to pick that up this year. So, it's the best we can do to mitigate the increased costs of being an official in the state.
Really, the color commentary I'll add is that there's a fee called the administrative fee that's bundled into what the schools get charged. That in our association we were putting on your paycheck, and then we were taking money out of your paycheck from that. Other associations never pass that through to the members. They would bill the school whatever the fee is, and then what would show up on your paycheck is a different fee, because they would take that administrative fee out. It's 13% of whatever the contest fee is. So that's where some of this difference is going to show up, is that money, and it's represented here as that blue, dark blue slice of the pie, $8,300, right? The 13% of all the contest fees that get collected. So instead of you seeing that on your paycheck, and then the PNWA is pulling some of that money out to pay for your WOA dues, WOA registration fee, etc., we're just going to keep that money in the control of the board, the PNWA. They're going to end up using that money to pay part of subsidizing your WOA dues, paying that WOA registration fee, etc. So some of the money that was hitting your paycheck and then your pay sheet and being deducted from you, it was never intended, I guess, to go to the members as a pass-through. It was supposed to go to the association. So,
questions about the budget? Christian?
So, you already showed us where they give us a raise, and since the the dues aren't going to go up till next year, I mean, are they going to renegotiate that deal again next year, given that it costs more for an official to be able to go out and participate and be an official for the schools?
Are they going to negotiate our batch fees next year? No.
So how long is that set for?
It's usually renewed every
2 years. Yeah, I think it's 2 years at a time. So
if we got a raise this year, we're not getting a raise next year.
Yeah, so they've got the agreement for this year and next year already. So.
Okay. And who I mean, as the president, are you part of that negotiating committee, or is that Stordahl?
Stordahl and Terry Beckstead representing wrestling.
Okay.
So, and John Lindsay representing boys sports in District 2.
And then the WOA has their representatives, so both sides of the table sort of hash it out.
I'm sure he puts out pretty good arguments.
All right.
Can I see
So,
the first line again?
Sure.
He's a cracker.
He's a signer for basketball. He's a signer for basketball.
And what's $3,500 for apprentice training at that facility
And the time and the curriculum and making sure we have enough guys in the spring to fill the mats.
What does that mean, spring apprentice staffing? What is that item?
So it includes not just training, but also the recruitment and assigning of spring apprentices.
On a busy day in the spring, we have to have 25 guys on the mat before 4 o'clock. We can't do that with our adult members. They have jobs.
So I think in the past, in the budget, that was all just part of Bob's fee. I mean, broken it out and what are we calling spring apprentice training? So in the future, if someday Bob decides, I don't want to do assigning anymore, but I'll still do the spring apprentice training, you'll be able to split that out. But I think it all was just assigning fees before. I don't think we had it broken into how much was for training and how much was for this, and it was just kind of a lump.
But that's part of the being transparent for what we've got going on. We want to make sure that everybody knows what the cost is compared to what they're getting, and that's one of the transparencies.
And this is not a precedent for any future seasons. This is what we decided to do this season.
And I think what
because the apprentice officials still pay a fee, right?
Yeah, they still pay their WA dues.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an assigning fee.
Yeah, it's sort of a combination of things, right? Again, to put 25 people on the mat to officiate contests, they generate our revenue for PNWA. If we don't have guys on the mat, we won't make revenue. And there aren't 25 adults in here in our association that could be on the mat in the afternoon. So that requires that we have to go out to high schools and recruit and train high school kids to perform this duty.
Is what, they start at 4 or something?
3:30, 3:15.
3:45.
Yeah.
Okay. So per our bylaws, we need to pass a budget, so if I have a motion from the floor to accept our budget. Mr. Black?
Yeah, I make a motion to pass that budget and allow you for this year.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Fred. That's it, Fred.
Aye. Should you say no or aye?
All right, moving on real quickly, I know I put this out in an email, probably a couple months ago now, but I wanted to just answer your questions, reinforce what we're talking about. The board had a lengthy discussion about meeting attendance, and I think they thought I was a hard ass about it, but I think it's pretty important that guys come to meetings. And as one board member said, you know, can a guy be a good official if he doesn't come to meetings? And I said, yeah, he probably can, but it's not about that one guy, it's about all of us. And the only way we all become better is if we're all here. And we get to train portion of the meetings next week. That's how we all improve. So it's not about any one guy. And at the same time, we all have lives, we all have commitments, you know, we're all gonna miss meetings. So we didn't want it to be a penalty, but we still wanted there to be an incentive to be in this room. So the meeting attendance policy is if you miss a meeting and you make it up, watch the video, report to Bob, you're good, no penalty. If you don't, you lose a half ranking point per meeting. And to encourage people to be in the room, you get a half meeting point per meeting. So you've all gotten a half ranking point for being here today. Questions? All right, you all got my email about the member services agreement. I think we're the only officiating association in the country that doesn't have one. Now we do. If you have yours signed, leave it for me today. Yes,
I
Wayne?
got 2 questions.
Sure.
On the agreement before I sign it.
Yeah.
So, in here, on item 2.1, it talks about the membership fee.
Yes.
It infers that it's paid in advance, or is it paid at the end of the season?
End of the season.
Yeah, the way it's written, I'll go. Member agrees to pay $25, establishes her membership. Member said the members will not be eligible to receive assignments through the association until member has paid. It's hard to pay
Right.
to meet that.
It's a deduction, all right, yeah.
Yeah,
So that,
payroll
that
deduction.
can't be met.
Okay.
Okay, just the.
I cribbed this from the football association, so.
I understand, before I signed that, let me make sure.
Yeah.
And then the other one I had a question on was the non-competition clause 12.3. So that's where the members
Yeah,
shall
that
not.
means you can't go out and solicit business to a
Something actually, for, not for me, but for somebody, member that he goes over to the peninsula or something and is working over that association, working over there, does this preclude them from doing that?
No, not at all. What it precludes them from, and this has been a problem in other sports, is it precludes you from starting your own association and soliciting.
I understand that, so that's the intent, it probably should be worded in a.
I had it legally reviewed by our resident.
Okay, I'm just.
Did you ask me for credentials?
But what is the way it's worded, those are the two items that I noticed that could be, if you look at it, you might not be able to satisfy. It almost tells you, even if you work for the South End to help them out.
Yeah.
I agree, I
Say,
think the non-competition clause is confusing.
right.
Okay.
I understand your intent,
Okay.
the wording probably.
Kick it back to the lawyer.
Okay.
I'm sure we talked about that on the telephone.
So that's.
There's about the WWOA that we get assignments from every now and again.
All right, well, all right, I'll modify it and send it out again.
But like, I just, those are the two that.
Do you have any put in the meeting minute notes?
That'd work.
That it's okay to referee with other associations if the assignments come through normally.
Yeah, Bob, we have some blank forms, right?
And then
Yeah.
the fee
We have
is
some blank ones.
payable towards the end of the season versus the.
I take a differ I differ with the first statement, standard operating procedure for other officiating associations in the country. I'm not worried about the country, I'm worried about our own local communities. There are wrestling associations that do not require this currently, and so I don't know why that statement's being made. And I definitely take issue with signing something that says I'm limited to something that's 2 years out and things like that. So, so where does the statement of standard operating procedure for all officiating associations in the country, when our local communities don't even have that?
Well, I don't know about other wrestling associations. I've been a member of 14 associations in 2 states, in 4 sports.
Right.
And I've always had names.
Okay, but your statement says every.
That was me just trying to be funny.
Oh, okay. I'm being serious.
Okay.
I'm being so serious that I may not officiate this year because of this. And that would be my decision, and other people can have their own decisions.
So how about we talk about that offline? Because it's not meant to prevent anybody from officiating. It's meant to protect you and meant to protect the association. It's the only guarantee that you have that you'll get paid.
There's other issues, like 2 years non-compete. I don't sign non-compete agreements.
I don't remember the clause you're referring to, but it's not meant to.
No, I think we need to really look at this as a whole, and anybody who takes issue, I think we need to discuss this either in an open or an offline, but I like a lot of it, but I also dislike a lot of it.
I'll second that. The non-compete clause is kind of powerful here. Members shall not, while a member for a period of 2 years after termination of this agreement for any reason provide officiating services directly or through any other vicinity. So that means you fire me, I can't go to PNWOA and work for them. And so, I mean, the details are very important when it comes to a legal document.
Okay. Any other concerns?
There's a couple of things. How do we know? First of all, and this is something that we need to clarify, when we talk about the member declining assignments to officiate contests that are for non-WAA schools, that's something that we're not aware of as a member, and so that we would need to know that on the front end for us to agree to such a thing.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't have that knowledge.
Okay.
There's certain things in here that make me responsible for things. For example, we do the kids programs, and they are so far outside of our realm as NFHS officials as far as the safety aspect and the responsibility falling on us. Now, I understand NASO, or NASO, I understand that we got that $3 million, but we definitely have some real, I think, serious safety issues with those, with the kids programs. I love doing the kids. I think it's the beginning of our sport, but we don't know their rules. We don't know what their requirements are, and here we're put on the mat to do these things. And this here tells me I have to take full responsibility for that. And again, I think this really needs to be vetted a lot deeper than just, here you go, this is what the footballers do. I think we need to look at it. I know you guys as a board, I have to assume that you guys looked at this pretty carefully. But there's a lot here that's above and beyond our
So why don't we take,
ourselves.
over the course of the next week, send me your concerns, and I haven't written anything down. So if you can email me or call me, and we can talk about it offline and we can address it.
Okay.
And if we need to get a board meeting together, we'll get a board meeting together.
Again, it's not meant to make it harder to officiate. Okay, great.
So a quick clarification back to, and this happens to me quite a bit, is I'll get a phone call from somebody else, and they ask me, hey, are you available to work that night? And I'll look at my schedule, yeah, I am. Are you saying that I need to call Bob to get approval? Okay.
Daryl calls you and needs help, like he calls
Everybody else.
Yeah. This is just for assignments in our association. Now, obviously, if that clause is problematic, we'll fix the clause. Okay?
You know, now with the different insurance, would he probably should, because we just said if we take something on,
So long as it's assigned to arbiter, but it'll always be assigned to arbiter.
It's to arbiter, so it's covered by
Yeah,
that.
so that part would be done.
It comes through an assigner,
Yeah.
is basically the thing.
Okay, so you can get the last second call, cover this match,
But it's only good hygiene that as assigners, we should coordinate with each other so that if in another association would like to use one of our guys, they should be contacting me, so, hey, is Matt Grogan available? Because I can say, no, he's not, he's assigned, or he shouldn't have said he's available because I have him already at Lake Washington High School tonight or something, right? Like, we just need to make sure that we're working, or 99% of the time it's like, yeah, go ahead, take Matt, he's available, I'm cool with it, but we just need to know.
Moving on?
Come back.
And just to clarify one last thing, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn or whatever. Just because we are covered with NASO, that doesn't necessarily, and this is maybe a question, it doesn't necessarily cover us if what we do is determined to be negligent, or, for example, the kids programs where they're wrestling on the edge of the mat, and our NFHS clearly states there has to be a boundary, those kind of things. And I'm not sure that that's covered in their thing. And at that point in time, we become negligent of not doing the rules as we've been trained to do. So that's one of those things that in this service agreement absolves the board, which I kind of agree because I was the president, absolves the board for any responsibility for putting us on the mat in an illegal situation, and we voluntarily go and do it. So I think it's really careful that we pay attention to that. It may be something where the PNWOA needs to have a rider or something on top of their own insurance for that kind of situation. So be really cognizant of what you're signing, because basically you're saying, I'm taking full responsibility for everything I do, whether it's...
But even if you were to go out without the agreement, if you were to go out and officiate in a kid's match, the match would still be quarter match and they'd still be wrestling to the very edge and a kid could still get hurt, you would still be liable, I guess, for lack of a legal term, for what happened if you agreed to officiate that. So I understand what you're saying. I don't know enough about national insurance to talk to their coverage to this.
Maybe in an addendum to what he's talking about, we need to get a hold of our kids league and see what their specific coverage is that's covering the situations, what they have there. And if we have that information, that'll certainly help.
So
we're morphing topics here.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, we can answer this, is all those assignments go through Bob. Assignments go through Arbiter, so you're automatically covered. As long as it goes through Arbiter, we are covered. You will not, and I think Bob will say this, we cannot and will not accept an assignment without going through Bob.
That's true.
That's not, but I know, I'm
absolutely right, Ray.
30 years. As long as it goes through Arbiter, you are covered for liability through NASA.
Yeah, and negligence is a whole other thing.
Yeah, exactly, I mean, and that's really what we need to get clarified.
Yes.
And again, I'm quite honest, we didn't know what it was when we had the WIAA insurance either. We never really spoke about that. That if in fact we do something that is incorrect and we are truly negligent, are we still going to be covered?
I can't speak to that.
All that insurance covers negligent conduct.
What's that?
All that insurance covers negligent conduct. It may not cover gross negligence or intentional torts, but it will cover negligent conduct.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, so if you are allowing a wrestling to continue beyond the out of bounds and they smash their head into a riser and they want to sue you because you didn't stop it fast enough, that's negligence. The insurance covers negligence. Now, if you try to incite a kid to punch another kid, that's probably going to be gross negligence and it's not going to be covered. And if you punch some kid, it's probably not going to be covered. In fact, it won't be covered. Okay? So, I mean, as far as what you're talking about there, I mean, the one thing that got my attention when I read through this was that there were specific activities that wouldn't be covered under the Washington State L&I if I twist my knee. I'm covered at the high school level, but at the kids level I may not be. And I didn't realize that before. So that was something when I read through it, I went, huh. So if I hurt myself, or a kid's dad comes up and hauls off and hits me because I made a bad call, so he thinks, and I get injured and I can't do anything more, at a kid's level...
Well, you would be covered for that under national insurance.
Yeah.
For assault coverage.
But not for your income, lost income or
But that's
whatever.
he makes a good point.
But for L&I. And that's one of those things that I was surprised, but that doesn't change anything with the contract or not. It was that way last year, so I've been told.
I promise to get you out of here by 8:30, so if you got comments, Wayne, Chuck, please contact me, email or phone, and we'll fix it, okay? All right, so after my election, the first thing I did was I called Todd Stortle and said, I was just elected president, what do I do now?
And he talked to you, that's good.
Yeah, well, that was before.
He
said, read the bylaws.
Or they're only gonna,
So I pulled
or
the
it's
bylaws
the
out
WIA
and
pays the premium.
I said, is
They're only gonna pay the premium.
association I'm a
They
member of?
sanction.
The bylaws are 11 years old and they're woefully outdated. So that was the first thing I did, is I
Just like
sat
they
down.
would sanction.
I don't, you know, they're not significant
Someone
changes.
baseball.
Frank, so when you ask past presidents, Frank, that's what was kind of point fingers.
Yeah,
and they go,
it's
"Pretty
not.
much."
Sports are not
So-
in their realm.
I
So
sent
like
it out in
AAU basketball
advance.
isn't, right?
I don't know if you have any
Or
comments,
USA
questions.
volleyball, or.
I didn't really know what sort of feedback to expect on bylaws changes. You guys? So, let me open the floor, comments on those. You can pull them up and take a look at them. We can,
Other than saying that you kind of looked at it, and where did a lot of that come from then, in terms of kind of what was changed or added?
So it was whatever our practices were now. So in terms of committees, there were standing committees and ad hoc committees. We don't do that, right? So I just said, what are we doing now? Let's make it reflect what our reality is. So that's what I changed in committees, and we passed a motion at the end of last season that the board needs to approve all new members. So I put that in the bylaws because that would have otherwise been in conflict with the bylaws.
Just point of order on that. The bylaws used to be, what was required as the bylaws, meeting minutes, etc., had to be put in the PNWOA group folder in the, on the Yahoo account, and there's no access to that now.
Was that in the bylaws?
That was something
bylaws
we
were
had.
there.
But they were there, that's where they
Where
were.
are they not? They're somewhere else now.
Pardon me?
They're somewhere else now.
Well, that's it. Where do they reside now?
But that is in the bylaw.
Pardon me?
That
The
is
bylaw was in there.
No, he's saying he can't see the bylaws because he can't find them.
Okay, what I'm saying is, years ago, when there was a big to-do, okay, with a couple of members that were violated, however you wanna put it, there were certain things that had to be put into the file. The file was to be kept in the PNWOA group folder, or group directory of Yahoo. You can't get access to those anymore. I don't know if they've been, now, Rick Oates was the one, I think, that was managing that.
Yep. Rick wrote basically our current bylaws.
Yes.
I mean, the ones you
Right.
That was redone probably about 16 years ago.
Well, yeah.
Current, relatively.
Right, well, we redid the bylaws, they were all put in there, there was a big to-do about meeting minutes and things like that was all supposed to be put in there. I went to pull those up today, and the file is, I don't know if it's been dissolved or what, but okay, so the question, I guess, at this point in time is, where do those files reside? Where do all those files reside? There were meeting minutes that had to be kept by the board?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know anything about it.
Does anybody know that? Rick, okay, so.
And I might be wrong, but I think the Yahoo groups have been, they shut them down.
No, it's going.
I thought we had the bylaws.
The bylaws are posted on our Facebook page, and that's hardly official.
Facebook?
Yeah.
That's where we transferred it when Yahoo was kind of going out of business, I thought.
Yeah.
Yahoo still has group spaces.
But we don't, ours isn't active or accessible, so.
So I don't have an answer to your question, Chuck, and I haven't really thought about it. I mean, I'm open to suggestions.
Well, maybe we just ask Rick.
Even before Yahoo groups, there were bylaws, so I don't know where they did with them,
They were paper bylaws.
Yeah.
Well, no, they were more than paper, they were electronic, plus the meeting minutes were to be kept there.
I think. Well, we don't keep meeting minutes.
Shouldn't they be, are you saying, should they be accessible? Should they be accessible, is that what your point is?
The question is, where do they reside? Where do the bylaws reside?
Would it be beneficial if they were accessible moving forward, the bylaws?
Well, that's what he's,
The question is, where do they?
If we had a website, we would put them on the website. We don't have a website. I don't know what other associations do.
So why don't we check with Rick to see if he has
we should
access
just send it to
to
them.
That's kind of a secondary to whether we should update the bylaws
Right.
with what Eric sent out. Whether they're out somewhere else or not is irrelevant. The bylaws that you put up there are our old bylaws, we can change the color for whatever we did do, right?
Unless you're wanting to add a bylaw saying that we have to keep the bylaws someplace.
The Constitution and the bylaws, the question was, where do they reside? So I guess that's a secondary question.
So let's put that off for the moment. And I don't have an answer, so, think about it.
That was a question, so I guess we don't know.
Well, when I was president, I know we kept bylaws and had a big folder.
We just had a copy, we just had a copy.
Was electronic, it was
Many
paper.
minutes and.
Paper copy, so we
We had,
always
and
have.
we had that, and I passed it on to
We
the
still have a
next
paper.
president.
Does the exchange server count?
Or a box account, PNWOA box account would solve that.
Okay, just give everybody access.
As far as looking at the bylaws that Eric sent out, you know, I looked through them, I thought, oh no, he's gonna change all kinds of crap. But I thought, no, none of these things matter, I mean, they're all minor changes that don't really change. The only change in there that's actually different than what we've been doing until last year was the board approving new association members.
Right, and we passed that in
And
association.
so, yeah, so you couldn't just join if you wanted to, you had to be approved. That's the
That,
only change.
that was the only change, correct?
Yeah, there was some other wording
There were some
changes.
other wording changes, like I talked about committees. The bylaws require us to have all these committees that we don't have. So, let's just change the bylaws.
Yeah.
So based on trustee Mike's opinion and what I read, I make a motion to vote on the changes.
We can't,
We can't finish
questions first.
Oh.
I looked through it again, but, you know, again, most of it was kind of pretty straightforward stuff. The only thing I was going to comment again on is your affiliation requirement statement. It says all officials must pay the applicable WOA and FHA dues in full in order to be registered and receive your books. So we received them. Bob, did we pay them already?
Last year?
we did pay for, some of it, yeah.
Well, it says in full.
Mhm.
So the wording, at least, just.
No, your dues, WA dues haven't been paid yet,
Right.
we'll get billed for those later.
I swear I got billed
Yeah,
last year for
just
next year,
words
isn't that how it
that
works?
they would be fine.
That used to be the way it worked, but
I know, but it's.
guys join and then they don't pay until they get deducted, so when you first showed up,
I haven't
you weren't
read the
paying
bylaws, and I am
until
the
you finished your
minority
season, then
Probably not.
you're paying for that season with the deduction.
Maybe we should think about tabling it.
Bob, just a point of clarification. The payment of dues, like our WA dues, et cetera, are we, when we get our checks at the end of the season and we're assessed a dues, is that basically for the next year?
No, it's paying
Oh, it
for the
is?
year,
Okay.
because think about the new guy the new guy that just showed up, he has 0 paid in. He'll officiate, and then at the end of the season, we will deduct from him to cover what his dues were for that season.
Is that
That's,
basically been the
I think
practice?
the wording that needs to be
I mean, way back, like, they were paying in advance.
That's what I thought.
So there was some surplus that's left over, like, we get hit with the WA registration fee, the per school thing.
Right.
I got billed for that in July. Now, through our surplus that was sitting in after last season's collections and stuff, I could pay that $1,100. Now, the WA dues $40 per member. That will come due like in February or something at the end of the season, and that will get paid by deducting from your paychecks. Because again, the brand new guy that shows up, he has $0 in the pot until he's officiated and then gets a paycheck and withheld.
I always thought we were paying it in phase.
Yeah, that was sort of.
All right, so in interest of time,
So-
those people who are interested,
Hypothetical question then, if something was to happen during the rest of the season and our WOA dues are not paid yet, what happens?
They don't bill us until the end of the season.
Oh, okay.
So, it's sort of like you sign up for the cable TV and then they'll send you a bill at the end of the month. What happens if you watched all month and you don't pay? Or you leave your apartment and cut out, right?
All those in favor of voting tonight, say aye. One.
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor of tabling this till next meeting, next Monday to vote on it then?
Aye.
Okay, so got a week to read the bylaw
Yo.
changes. I'll
Send you an email?
Send me an email, I'll send out the revision. We'll vote next week.
So, Eric, just give yourself enough time to correspond, give yourself enough time to finish it properly, so you don't have to go back and go through this again next week. So, just give yourself some time.
Yeah. Maybe the December meeting.
All right, so we have like 6 or 7 new guys in the room and 6 or 7 new guys coming. And that's, to me, as many new guys as I have seen in my entire 8 years in this association. And I think that's great. I think it's definitely counter the national trend of losing officials. So I want to make this a good experience, and I don't know about you, and I know this doesn't happen because Bob does all this incredible training, but you know, I was handed a rule book and a whistle and said, okay, now you're a referee. And unlike football, where you got a crew of 5, and baseball, at least a crew of 2, we're out there on Thursday nights by ourselves. And so I want to try to make this as good an experience as possible, so I'm trying to launch this mentorship program so that we can match guys up so they can have some continuity and consistent experience, especially over the first couple weeks of the season as they get their feet wet. So, you obviously can read that. This is just what I came out of my head as I put this together. And of course, all of this is subject to Bob being able to coordinate schedules for guys. If you're interested in being a mentor, let me know. I know a bunch of you already volunteered. If you haven't and you're interested, let me know, and we'll see if we can make this a good experience for guys.
Just a quick comment would be that any new officials or apprentice officials in the room, if you want to really get more training and better training, being accessible and available right after your match. So even to be able to stay around and watch, if not participate in some of the varsity match, is a really great idea. I know that everybody has schedules and things they're doing, etc. But you know, when that JV official has barely a chance to talk to you at the end of their match, oh, I gotta go. You know, I mean, just leaving yourself a few minutes at the very end is really a great idea.
If you're a JV official on my mat for a varsity meet, unless it's a really high level varsity meet, we work 2-man mechanics.
Sure.
Get on that. Get some
Exactly.
yeah.
And for me, piggybacking on what Frank had to say, is that it's so awesome having a JV or assistant official there, because when you're down looking for a pin, the most important thing that you want to be considered about looking for the pin. And it's easy to train a JV or an assistant official to look for if there's any illegal holds or if the headlocks come off and that kind of stuff. And that really helps that bottom official in looking for a pin. And it's a good chance to on and out of bounds if, for God's sake, we're out of position to ask the opinion of the other official. So for me, I'm gonna use you, and that's what it needs to be. If you're just tagging around and you're just watching a match, then whoever your official on the mat is not doing you a good service.
I think he is. Just sticking around, watching the match, you make a call or something, go over and talk to him, say, here's why I made that call and stuff. I think that's very valuable. It's like Frank said, if the kid will stick around and do that, then you can do that, or provide the information. I'll be honest, I've had other JV officials work the VAR, and it's like you said, if it's a high level match or something like that, it's a little tough. Particularly if you're gonna have them call the match, you know, I mean,
it's
and
a
you be the
situation,
assistant.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's not as, you know.
and most wrestling in this area, you know, I don't think that's going to be a common occurrence. So
the flip side I'll throw on this too is not only is it important for the JV guy to stick around. I'm sorry. The flip side is not only is it important for the JV guy to stick around, but if you're a varsity official and you've got a apprentice or new guy or whatever, working at JV, get there and watch some of his matches.
Absolutely, that's what it means to be a mentor.
That's what I'm saying, there's a two-part, we've been talking all about the JV guys sticking around, but we haven't said anything about, because I've been in a lot of varsity men where I'm like, hey, is the varsity official, second official even gonna show up? And they roll in there like right at time to flip the coin, I'm like, okay, I'm glad to hear it.
This is a commitment on both parties.
Read up here what it says, the first things about.
See, that's the given.
I-
That's the given.
I'm saying it because.
Yeah.
What, Paul?
I'm just saying. it's
The
already
mentor
up there.
observes the JV.
Yes.
Okay. Chuck, you had a question?
No, I was gonna say the same thing, you know, as, I think we as the more veteran officials have a responsibility to the newer official and to the sport to be there earlier to assist with certain situations, with calls. I think we have that responsibility to do that, and I will always write notes and give them the notes. Bob may see or may not see them. It's just basically, this is what I saw, great job here, maybe work on this, these kind of things. And I give them a piece of paper to walk away with, and they throw it away, that's fine. But the main thing, I think we have that responsibility as veterans to be able to help them by being there, saying, hey, that coach is out of line, or that was a bad call, or whatever. And be able to help them, because there's nothing like being a brand new official, and you're in the heat of the battle, and the coaches are not happy with your calls. They need us to sometimes go to that coach and say, Coach, you were out of line there. You need to back off. You need to help this guy out instead of beating him up. So definitely that, and then of course the less veteran officials. By all means, if we can, and I think that was important. Like Paul was saying, if it's a high-level match, well, maybe we won't have you on the mat with us. But if it's a lower-level match, then yeah, I welcome the JV official to be there with me.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's best for everybody that way. Again, it's good for that official, it's good for the coaches, and it's good for the sport.
As I mentioned to several of you, Referee Magazine, the magazine that you all get now, this past issue ran a survey, a nationwide survey. The average age of a wrestling official in this country is 57.
The average age of every sport across the station is about 55.
I've never been below average before. We need to get some new guys. We need to
I'm above average.
You exceed the average. You wouldn't matter out on the way on the distribution
Just
tail.
to point something out, I know I'm brand new, but just what you guys were just arguing about, if I stick around and step on the mat, I was only getting paid for the JV match. And if I was to get injured or hurt, aren't you the only one who's covered? So
No.
that's
They'll both be covered.
basically, I just wanted to-
Because you're assigned to the.
Good question, yeah. All right. With 4 minutes to spare, anybody who wants to go to Roanoke? First round is on me. We'll see you next week.
I don't know.
Move that we do, close the meeting.